you've got a base of followers who are so alienated from mainstream America, from the institutions and conducts and norms of normal politics, of normal institutional governance of the country, who feel themselves so shut out from it for good reasons and bad, who feel they're being looked down upon, who feel they don't have social capital, et cetera, who think the Eastern elites are looking down their noses at them, that he's able to tap into that. And that predates Trump. That's been a problem for decades in America, but he has seized upon that and exploited that to a greater extent than any previous candidate.
Kim, I should set up my, follow-up question to you on this by saying I spent a bit of time in Northern Ontario over the summer. There were a lot of guests from the States that came through the place I was hanging out. Talked to a lot of them about why they supported Trump, as almost every single one of them did. An answer that they frequently come back to is, we can't stand how woke the Democratic Party is. They look down at us. Yeah. They don't like the fact that we're religious. They want to take our guns away. Can people ignore all they don't like about Trump? Well, I guess they are, if they think the Democratic Party's no better.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that one of the difficulties with the election at this point is the fact that there aren't many minds to be changed. And when one looks at Trump and his so-called superpowers, I think that there are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. One of the superpowers, apart from those powers that Vivian and Andrew have talked about, one of the superpowers is the ability to subvert the Republican Party and to change it and to keep all of those elected Republicans absolutely along with the base. Because let's face it, if you think about the Republican Party and think about the possibility that every one of them would be like Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, would Donald Trump be anywhere at this point? Because his base, no matter how loyal, isn't that big. And so that had the Republican Party elected officials eliminated him, as they absolutely could have, where would he be? A third-party independent candidate at the best.
Well, this Republican Party wouldn't be good enough for Ronald Reagan. I mean, he would not have a place in this Republican Party, fair to say?
I think it's entirely fair to say, certainly in terms of both in terms of policies and in terms of his persona. I mean, Reagan was sunny optimism, morning in America, there's nothing America can't do. You'll notice the Democrats have been appropriating that message because the Republicans have given it to them. On freedom, on patriotism, on optimism, all those kind of Reaganite themes, you saw a lot more of that at the Democratic convention than you did at the Republican.
Vivian, I want to circle back with you to, and apologies for doing this, I'm going to quote the New York Times, which is a bit cheeky to a journalist from the Wall Street Journal. But here we go. You know, Nicholas Kristof's a great columnist, and here's what he had to say in the New York Times last week when he said, too often since 2016, the liberal impulse has been to demonize anyone at all sympathetic to Donald Trump as a racist and bigot. This has been politically foolish, for it's difficult to win votes from people you're disparaging. It has also seemed to me morally offensive, particularly when well-educated and successful elites are scorning disadvantaged working-class Americans who have been left behind economically and socially, and in many cases are dying young. They deserve empathy, not insults. By all means, denounce Trump, but don't stereotype and belittle the nearly half of Americans who have sided with him. Okay, do you think there's some good advice in that column?
Of course. After the 2016 election, where, many people had presumed that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and many of the polls were suggesting as much, and Donald Trump pulled off his win, there was really a come to Jesus moment for the media, for, the American society as a whole to understand how his victory happened. And a lot of it was exactly what Kristof explains there, that it is this sense that there's a large segment of the American population that is forgotten. And the Democrats are associated with this coastal elitism that many working class sort of in the middle of the country feel completely disconnected from, and they feel like they've been forgotten. An example being, I was just with Trump in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, an old industrial town that is quite charming. And if anyone's ever passing through Pennsylvania, I highly recommend that you stop there. It is geographically gorgeous. The buildings are, Victorian style and beautiful, but many of them are abandoned. The city is overrun by crime, and it's in a sad state. And Trump went out there and gave a boisterous rally, where he talked about essentially how Democrats had forgotten them, and whether or not it's a Democrat problem or a Republican problem. The fact of the matter is, politics, Washington has forgotten segments of the country that 20, 30 years ago were still sort of in their heyday, and today are largely abandoned. And so Trump has spoken to those people because he wanted to be the outsider. And of course, ironically, he's no longer really an outsider. He runs the RNC, the Republican National Committee, but he put himself out there as an outsider who understands the needs of these people. Ironic again, because he's a wealthy New Yorker who was born into wealth, but his sort of dismissal of Washington politics and the politicians who have traditionally run this country, his ability to kind of shake things up, his completely unapologetic, attacks on people in Washington, that really resonated with people across the country. And it continues to resonate with them because they feel like he is fighting for them. And so for us to ignore that is a mistake. And I hope and I believe that we go into this cycle a lot more aware of those issues than we were certainly in 2016.